During the Super Bowl MVP interview, this happened.
No, I always imagine myself making great plays, but you never think about being MVP.
Investigate 9/11. 9/11 was perpetrated by people within our own government.
All right. Is everybody all right?
His response was the greatest thing ever. All right. Is everybody all right? So there's 3 points I have to make about this. Number one, let me sympathize first. In fact, I'll probably give more credit than I should. Are there conspiracies? Sometimes, yes, absolutely. I mean, we know about a lot of them. The Tuskegee experiments, for one, that's a fact. We know about the Gulf of Tonkin, Bay of Pigs, Operation Northwoods. There are certainly cases of false flags and conspiracies that exist. But they're also not all created equal, and they're not all true. They're also not all false, but it's a mixed bag. So, for example, Sandy Hook was not a conspiracy theory. The moon landing wasn't faked. The Aurora shooting wasn't a conspiracy. You have to look at them on a case-by-case basis and figure out what's going on based on the individual evidence in each case. And here's the main point about 9/11. So, were there weird, awkward, unaccounted for, unexplained things that happened during 9/11? For sure. Anybody that tells you we understand everything is totally full of shit. And is the official government report riddled with problems and sometimes falsehoods, etc.? Absolutely. In fact, Building 7 is still somewhat of a mystery. But did the government do it? No. I say almost certainly not. And the reason being, it leads me to my second point here. The size of the attack is the reason why the government almost certainly didn't do it. So here's my question to all 9/11 truthers. Why would you fly a plane into the World Trade Center where, by the way, the rich people there basically own the government and fund the politicians, so they're basically killing their best friends there. So why would you fly a plane there, and then why would you fly a second plane in? One would have been enough to try to justify anything. Then why would you attack yourself by attacking the Pentagon? Then why would you also make another plane crash in the middle of random-ass Shanksville? If you wanted to do a false flag attack, you could have, take a rickety old Navy ship that we don't use anymore and sink it in the Middle East somewhere. You have 0 casualties, and you say we got attacked. You immediately blame Iraq, which is that's something, by the way, we didn't do at all. We realized it was mostly people from Saudi Arabia. So they reported that it was people from Saudi Arabia, but they attacked Iraq. If they were going to conspire, they would have said from the beginning it was Iraq, wouldn't they? So there's another thing that just, it doesn't add up. And it would be easier that way. If you did it that way, you could have done a false flag attack so much easier, but so many things happened and so many people were killed, and that just doesn't add up. It couldn't be that they pulled it off. And finally, in point number 3, what's your end game, dude? So let's say you get a majority of people, this is probably one of their goals, right? You get a majority of people in America to agree with you that 9/11 was an inside job, and then what? Then what? So for example, a recent poll showed that about the JFK assassination, something like 60% or 62% of the American people think that it was a conspiracy and there was more than one shooter. Oswald was involved, but there was somebody in the grassy knoll, and it was either the mafia or the Cubans or the Russians or the CIA or somebody. So 62% of the American people, an overwhelming majority, say, yeah, that wasn't what they said it was, okay? But then what happens? Nothing. I mean, you can still wake up tomorrow and go to work and take a shower and take a shit, and the next day is like everything else. So what's your end goal? What do you want? What do you want to happen? And the main thing is that this distracts from more important things that actually matter. And what I mean by that is you can actually be fighting, while you're fighting for all this 9/11 stuff, you could actually be out there protesting to increase the minimum wage, protesting to pass an immigration bill, protest to increase unionization in the U.S. again so we can rebuild the middle class, protest to regulate Wall Street so we don't have another Great Depression or Great Recession. You could be protesting for Medicare for all, a universal healthcare system, so 45,000 people don't die every year because they don't have access to basic healthcare. That's something substantive. Fight for something substantive. You're fighting to change minds, and then there's nothing that happens after that. All right, guys, now we got everybody to agree with us. Okay, now what? We didn't really think this far through it.